Hello and welcome to episode 274 of the Round Nintendo podcast. I'm Jason.
I'm Angel.
274, huh? I am Kevin.
Yeah, we are moving on up there. And I think in honor of such a milestone episode as 274, and in honor of Kirby's new mouthful mode, we should go around and state which inanimate object eating Kirby we each are. I'm sure there's one that you like, like to tag yourself in a photo. We should
I
go with the
was
Kirbys.
not ready for this.
I didn't think it through when I suggested it.
That.
I don't know either. This is off the cuff. I have no idea what to do. Actually, you know what? No, I think I got one. I could be vending machine Kirby.
It's the only one.
There's car, cone.
Oh, that already
vending
exists?
machine.
Oh, I thought you were saying to make up our own.
Well, I'm coming up with my
of
own,
the
so
ones that
we have
exist.
to deal with that.
Oh, well, that's fine. I'll go with one of the existing ones. I'll say I'm vending machine Kirby because, let's see. I like a snack. I may be limited in my range, but I'm relatively good at the thing I can do. I'm conscious of money. Some may consider me to be square. Yeah, I'll go with that. That's mine. Your turn. About you guys like 30 seconds.
Bed Kirby, because then I could sleep with my mouth, I guess. I don't know how to process this one. Cone Kirby, because I like getting to the point. There we go. We'll just go with that.
There, that's beautiful.
I'm trying to understand how that gets to the point, but
it doesn't. It's wordplay, and we'll take it. We're not even wordplay. It's visual.
I'd be
play.
Herman Miller chair Kirby. Specifically, a Herman Miller, because there are no more comfortable chairs. There isn't a single chair that's out there that's more comfortable than a Herman Miller.
Hashtag sponsored.
Oh man, if we could get Herman Miller chairs to like sponsor us,
we can dream,
dude. Oh, that'd be the dream. Those chairs go for $1,500.
Yeah, they're up there for sure. Well, for a
I will
premium
know
podcast
I have
like Grand
made it
Nintendo,
when I have a Herman Miller chair,
and that's what you can find on every print ad for Herman Miller chair. That quote, a tribute to Kevin. But anyway, well, now that I sort of caught you guys in your tracks there, we will dive deeper into this aspect of Kirby and the Forgotten Land later in the show. But boy, do we have a show for you guys. We are calling this episode Legends Has It, after Pokemon Legends Arceus, which we'll be sharing impressions of momentarily, and spoiler, it's good. But it seems like Nintendo, like they just couldn't stop there. Releasing the first major shakeup of Pokemon in 20 years wasn't enough. Nor was the release of their holiday financials enough. Nor was the first Nintendo Direct of 2022 enough. They needed to do all three of them. So along with Pokemon Legends, we're also going to be diving into all the news of what's coming, what we now know is coming to Switch this spring and summer. And we're going to look at some financial report details that perhaps explain the hows and whys of those decisions and why we're getting the games we're getting. So
this is a major problem.
And yeah, why it's a problem for some and maybe not for others. But yeah, this is one of the episodes where like really there's a lot of games, there's a lot of news. Those timestamps around Nintendo.com on the blog post may come in handy should you choose to jump around. But are you guys ready to just dive in with the first topic here? Just hit the ground running.
What if we just said no?
Yeah.
What if we like? What
It's funny because
to be frank and actually no,
like we could Lord of the Flies this podcast.
Now, it's interesting you make the suggestion because the first topic is Pokemon Legends Arceus, and I think I'm the only one who bought it, right? So, like,
that's what I was getting at. That, like,
I could
hit the ground running.
Going.
I mean, for us, it's going to be more like hitting the ground on a Segway because we'll be coasting while you do the blunt of the work.
We are a really high-cost podcast. Herman Miller chairs, Segways.
They don't make Segways anymore, right?
I don't think they do, but Segway, the company, makes those balance board thing, not balance board, that's a Nintendo thing, but makes those like those little hoverboard things that were popular a couple of years.
I know Jackie Chan has a Segway company in China, but I guess I don't know if that's still a thing.
Well, Segway itself is from China, so.
Whoa. That always seems to me like
I don't think they were originally from China, but they're now Chinese owned.
Yeah, like Segway, because...
Into the next topic.
It has, yeah.
Yeah, alright, so let's do that. Okay, so, Pokemon Legends Arceus, I guess I am the only one that bought it. Kevin, I'm not sure as much as I'm with Angel what Pokemon represents to you per se, or what may or may not click with Arceus, but Angel, I know in terms of your way of playing Pokemon, you might have made the right call not picking up Arceus, because Legends reimagines I don't know why I keep interchangeably using the different subtitles, but either way, Pokemon Legends Arceus does reimagine a ton of what makes Pokemon Pokemon, and I'm loving everything they did. But if you're a guy who wants like to EV train or to breed for perfect stats or whatever, like literally none of that is here. Instead, like what,
PvP EV training, and from what I've seen, it's literally catered to people that just want to catch Pokemon and explore. Which is awesome.
I mean, literally, it looks
really fun. But
that's what it does incredibly well. Is in a way, it does kind of go back to this idea of like the old "God catch 'em all" slogan. It's about this world, full of these creatures, and it's up to you to explore and document. As a member of the Galaxy Expedition Team Survey Corps, which is like 3 words too many. It's a role you actually kind of quite literally fall into at the start of the game because you show up in this unexpected land via a hole in the sky. And that may have something to do with space and time, given the game's connection to Diamond and Pearl. Only thing I'm going to say there is it is very on the nose that some of the people you interact with are members of 2 rival clans, one called the Diamond Clan, one called the Pearl Clan. Each believes in their respective importance of time or space being the more important thing in life. I'll let you guess which clan's view matches which starring legendary Pokemon from each of those games. But anyway, yeah, in terms of the game, there is battling to be had, but honestly, it feels like it takes a back seat to a primary focus, like you said, Angel, of really just going out and catching and exploring Pokemon as a world. And as you guys No, go ahead. What were you saying?
I was going to say, which honestly, yeah, I say that it's like pretty much on paper, like literally just on paper, it sounds like a Pokemon game I would dislike. But, from footage that I've seen, from impressions that I've heard, both from, briefly checking to Jason about it, and mainly from my coworkers, oh my god, they are loving this game.
It's good, yeah.
Yeah, it does seem like something I would like, because at the end of the day, I dislike just catching Pokemon, or making that my main objective, if it's, the way it is in the mainline RPGs. If it was a game that's literally just that, yeah, that wouldn't be fun. Even for the people that love to just catch Pokemon, if the game was literally just that, they probably think it's okay. Maybe they'll like it. But this is different. It's not just, random encounter catching Pokemon. They're out there. It's almost like they injected some Monster Hunter in there even, which...
there's some roots to that. Yeah, it's like, I think for me going into it, like as you two know, or like really anyone who listens to the show know, like the thing about Pokemon I had the most fun with isn't even necessarily like, oh, I like catching them in the old RPG. Like you were saying, it's the world. It's the idea of these creatures existing all around you. And like, like when I was a kid, there was that song from like the Orange Island season of the Pokemon show, We All Live in a Pokemon World or whatever. And that was like my dream. So, the Detective Pikachu movie comes around, and I loved it because of that world building and the Pokemon kind of life. Sword and Shield comes around, and I thought the wild area was kind of a step in the right direction in terms of, like feeling like you're inside these environments, even if perhaps they were more expanded safari zones in practice than anything else. But still, they're full of like living, breathing Pokemon, and you would see them and you would go up to them and that sort of thing. And even like Pokemon Snap, just getting to observe Pokemon behave like real animals with real like things they do in the environment, like that was just cool. So what I really like about Legends so far, and what does make it feel like different than just, oh, you're doing the catching from the regular RPGs, is it really combines a lot of those aspects that they've been slowly kind of building towards, and just takes it to like a whole new level. Because, like I mentioned, you are tasked with having to go and document these Pokemon. You're helping build the first ever Pokedex. So that means in gameplay terms, what feels like kind of a marriage of like the
Wait, so what did they do with that Pokedex? Did they like burn
They threw it in the garbage.
After?
You collected them all, and then they're like, cool, we're going to forget you did any of this. And then you have to do it in every game after. I assume. I don't know. I have not beaten the game.
Your dex? Is your dex just like, hey, can you?
No, there is no your dex. It's one and the same. There's a dex. You are making.
Oh no! I'm saying that's why, because like, I'm
my
guessing your
personal
character
one
refuses to like do anything but catch Bidoof.
Yeah. So no, I'm actually being pretty, like, I don't want to let down the professor, so I am actually looking at all Pokemon. But I made sure one of the very first things I did in the game, as I was saying at the tail end of our last episode, is a photo shoot with my Bidoof in the photo studio, which is a fun little side thing in the game. So,
which is pretty great. Your photo shoot.
Yeah, so, like, I got my Bidoof fix early on. And the fact that they're the very first Pokemon you encounter in the entire game is just... That's why I'm praising this so much. It's not the game's good. It's that they start with Bidoof.
Do you have a picture of you with a full team of Bidoofs? Like, I want to see Jason with like a Bidoof squad.
No, I do not. If you go look at somehow if you find me on Pokemon Snap's like online photo sharing features, my Pokemon Snap profile for new Pokemon Snap is all Bidoofs. It's Bidoof themed. It's all Bidoof photos. It's what you're envisioning. I just haven't gotten there yet with. Yeah, what I was saying about the gameplay, though, beyond Bidoof, which is great, is that it really does feel like they kind of combined like an extended take on the wild area and honestly like the individual tasks of something like Pokemon Snap's photo assignments. Like I know I was just saying how they're all Bidoof photos I took, but like Pokemon Snap does a really good job of giving you different things to do with Pokemon and sort of seeing how they engage with it as if they were real creatures. And this basically brings that into real Pokemon. It's not just about necessarily like catching a Pokemon and moving on, because there are now multiple sets of objectives you need to check off your list. Like maybe you do need to catch 1 or 3, but you also want to observe them in battles and see them perform certain moves. You want to perhaps sneak up on them when they're sleeping or feed them a certain berry or see different variants of Pokemon. There's just a ton to do if you want to check off every single thing. But I guess smartly, for the sanity of most players out there, myself included, your Dex entry is considered complete when you do enough of these things to reach what's considered a research level 10 for each Pokemon, which is only a certain subset of those tasks that you can kind of pick and choose. So if you want to be a completionist, there's literally hundreds of things you can do. If you want to be somewhat sane, it is kind of distilled. And if you combine these sorts of objectives with, I guess, the fact that as you venture into the world, these Pokemon actually act like living creatures, it just really adds to it. Like you can see them from distances, like you were saying, Angel, it's not random encounters. You can watch them interact with one another. Different species do have different personalities. So you've got like friendly little Bidoofs, my boys, running up to you. You've got shy Starlies who will, who are flight risks the second you see them. Weirdly aggressive Parases of all Pokemon that will keep throwing poison spores at you. You have different Pokemon show up depending on the time of day or the weather. Some you may encounter at a higher level and can actually hurt you, the trainer, you, the human. So you actually have to learn not just how to engage with these Pokemon, but avoid certain Pokemon at times. It's just really well thought out. There's even this thing called Alpha Pokemon, which are essentially souped up, physically giant versions of regular Pokemon, often at a much higher level than you're equipped to handle when you first encounter them. So on the simplest level, they serve as kind of a gameplay hook to get you to return to previous areas on the map and participate in more traditional battles to overcome them or weaken them or whatever. But they also serve as leaders of actual packs of Pokemon. So when you see these alphas, you'll see their evolved form and they'll be big and burly and everything. But then their earlier forms are in the vicinity and will actually gang up on you together. So it really does kind of feel like they move like animals would in packs. And all of these aspects combined just make for a Pokemon world that really truly feels like real, like you're actually in the wilderness with the Pokemon. And on the gameplay side, it's really interesting to see how Game Freak sort of toys with Pokemon's core mechanics inside this new setting. Because yes, you're right, it is not the same catching Angel, not at all. But in terms of progression, they actually took the skeleton of what makes a regular Pokemon RPG and just applied it to this new scenario. Like instead of earning 8 badges that each grant you, command of higher level Pokemon or some new items, Legends has you rank up through 10 different star levels as you collect more research, each giving you, command of higher level Pokemon and new types of items like Pokeballs. There's now 10 Pokeballs. So that's kind of very similar. Or if you take the idea of gyms, like the idea of a Pokemon gym in the core games, if you distill it down, was that you do these little puzzles that you would do, out exploring the rest of the world or a team market base or a cave or whatever. And then they're kind of stringing together a bunch of different Pokemon battles that really test how well you've trained up to that point, with kind of the final gym leader being like the big finale of that battle sequence. In Legends, that idea now exists in the form of these things called Noble Pokemon, which combine 2 kind of key overworld mechanics from the game, dodging and throwing, but with Pokemon battles. So essentially you encounter a massive gold shimmery looking Pokemon, and you need to lob these bombs at it to lessen its health bar while also dodging it as it's charging at you. And if you time it right or you wear it down enough, you then are given the opportunity to throw a Pokemon at it and actually enter a battle. Then after a certain amount of damage is dealt in the battle, throws you back into kind of the bomb throwing sequence and back to the Pokemon battle, and you rinse and repeat until the health bar is depleted, which much like, again, the flow of making it through a gym, it's very similar. Each trainer it's like a notch in the gym's quote-unquote health until you land that final blow by defeating the leader, and that's it. So even that kind of mirrors, which is interesting. And I'd even go as far as to say, you're comparing it to Monster Hunter, I'd say the traditional route system of normal Pokemon games lives on here in how the map is divided. I mean, I know we all kind of thought Monster Hunter, and I'm sure there is some element of that in how they kind of have like sectional areas you go through and progress. But in practice, like actually playing through it, it did really remind me of the route system in a funny way, because each new area you open up, there's, you know, different Pokemon or different types and higher levels, and as you'd expect with any game's progress to be, you know, Monster Hunter I'm sure does it too. But then eerily similar to routes is that in certain parts of these areas, you're always guaranteed to see certain Pokemon. It's just like if you're playing one of the classic Pokemon games and you know that, oh, this certain patch of tall grass halfway down Route 3 or whatever is the one where the Pikachu shows up. Like, it's actually an aspect of the game I'm not sure if I even like or dislike. I mean, obviously different areas will have sets of Pokemon that are consistent between visits, but the specific spots where they spawn are the same every time. Like, as an example, when you leave one of the first base camps you set up in the first region of the map, it's called the Heights Camp, I think. If it's daytime, you are always, the second you walk out of there, going to encounter 3 Starlies along a cliffside. If it's nighttime, you turn left, and there's always going to be 2 Zubats there instead, going left down the path. Like, always. Every time. And I think I like it. I think I like it, like, mostly because it helps kind of streamline Pokedex completion, especially if you're looking for shinies who, from my understanding, also respawn in the same spot. And if you do want a more chaotic Pokemon situation, there are these space-time distortion bubble things that pop up where a whole hodgepodge of Pokemon will bombard you all at once if you enter them. It's just like complete, total chaos. But having it be so reliably always the same Pokemon per spot on the map every time does slightly kind of shatter the illusion of the game a bit. It almost feels too mechanical or like too gamey. Like you're basically seeing the blatant spawn point where they're coming out. And it's just kind of like, I don't know, like it kind of takes me out of it a little. But the streamlining it provides, though, like that, streamlining is really the word, I think, that sums up a lot of the experience. Like on the one hand, yes, you're exploring these vast areas, and yes, there's a whole crafting system I haven't even touched on that is needed to create everything from Pokeballs to items to attract Pokemon with. But all those are relatively straightforward and accessible. If you need to heal Pokemon while out in the world and you're out of items, you can instantly warp to the nearest camp. If you need to craft, you can throw out any Pokemon to bonk a tree or break some ore or whatever. There's no HM slaves here. HMs and TMs don't even exist for that matter. And I think where the streamlining is maybe the most apparent, kind of on that HM TM train of thought, at least for a subset of Pokemon fans, maybe yourself included, Angel, is in battles. Like I'm a more casual battler, so this is like perfect for me. The type chart still applies. In fact, I know, shocking, right? But the type chart still applies. So like, I kind of know my way around it. In fact, the game actually tells you basically on every screen if the decision you're making is going to be effective or not, or have a good outcome or not, which I personally really like. But also they have introduced a new, this is supposedly the deep part of the system.
I guess that's
they
been a thing in
new
Pokemon games since Sun and Moon, I think.
Yeah, I think it has, but I don't remember it being on the Pokemon selection screen.
No, yeah.
So you obviously in
on
battle,
the moves.
but yeah, no, it's on the moves. Yeah, it's on. Oh, I guess it was there. Well, either way, it's nice that carried over, I guess. But they also did introduce this new strength agile system that lets you essentially shake up the sequence of who attacks by either sacrificing attack damage to go sooner or choose strength but risk letting your opponent go twice. And even there, the game gives you the ability to view the upcoming attack order at any time, so you can see the effect of any buff you basically choose to do. It's also worth noting that this technique technically only applies to moves a Pokemon has quote-unquote mastered, which is presumably to add another dimension to your decision instead of, just letting you willy-nilly soup up any attack. But you can have your Pokemon learn to master a move in a training facility in town. So it's really not that deep. You just have to go, oh, I guess next battle I'll make sure that's mastered. So it's like one step removed from always accessible. But that's the thing, though. Like, from what I can tell, there's no real deeper mechanics that play beyond these. Like, there's nothing too complicated. Like I was saying earlier, there's no EV training, there's no breeding, there's no IVs. There is a thing called effort levels in which you collect items called grit. There are 4 different types of grit that exist, each with a different point value. And if you give them to your Pokemon, you can max out certain stats. Kind of like the IV-EV thing, but it's all very straightforward. And they now show the exact levels of each stat, like on a screen where you can just look at it. And, versus kind of having to forge through it and figure it out yourself like in the traditional games. So it is definitely simpler in those regards and streamlined in those regards. So if that's, disappointing, to anyone to any amount. I do think what's interesting about the game is it very clearly feels like it's laying foundation for something more. Like, it feels like there's the opportunity here for deeper stuff in the future. Like, even with all my gushing about like the world, there's clear room for improvement. It's kind of sparse, for example. There's no other trainers you encounter. You can't even battle your friends online or locally. The Pokemon themselves barely interact between species or with the world like they do in New Pokemon Snap. They interact with certain things and with things you throw at them and within their species, but they don't really like go beyond that. Even your own interactions with Pokemon only have a set number of things. It'd be cool if there was more fleshed out, there's more variety. Even what you do in the world as the human is limited to basically just finding Pokemon and I guess occasionally using Pokemon for transportation. Like, there's no real like puzzles or environmental things, so it would be cool if like they introduced some sort of light puzzle solving that maybe in some cases you do need a specific Pokemon to do a specific thing, even at the cost of being a little less streamlined. Like, this seems like a next step. And on the production side too, like I'm not in the camp that the graphics are bad, like a lot of people are saying, but there's some pop-in that happens, there's some clipping that happens, the sky looks nice, the rest is just kind of okay. Like, the control setup, I do really like it, but having to toggle by hitting X to alternate between tossing a Pokeball or sending out your Pokemon to battle, and then having both those throws be the same button, so you just need to know which time you hit X and which one's going to do. There's multiple times I've accidentally been trying to sneak up on Pokemon and then launch myself into a battle and I just wanted to catch it. Stuff like that could be cleaned up. Even presentation-wise, like the game, I feel like it's at the point where they gotta do voice acting. Like, it feels like when Zelda was right on the cusp of starting to do voice acting, it's just like, why is it not here? Like, it's so story-driven, especially early on, that just feels like that would help. But my point is, this does feel, as I'm playing through it, it's really fun, but it does feel like a first pass at a new idea. And for Pokemon, the fact that such an opportunity exists is actually very exciting. Like, it is one thing that I'm having an absolute blast with Legends, and I would recommend it to anyone who's a fan or has any interest in more than just the battles. Like, yes, that is true. I stand by that. But also, like, what it represents for the future is just, as I said, exciting. Like, let's be honest, Game Freak, they were very hesitant to ever make any real gameplay changes for fear it could tank the franchise. So when like Pokemon Go came along and so many people latched onto a different take on Pokemon, that seemed to kind of give Game Freak enough confidence to finally start tiptoeing into new ideas. And then we got Sun and Moon, which felt like the first real test with like structural tweaks. And, it was rewarded for it. It went on to be, I think it outsold Ruby and Sapphire and Black and White. It sold something like 16 million copies. And then Pokemon Sword and Shield gave us the Wild Area and DLC for the first time. And the response was so strong that, here's a fun stat, as of December, it's now the second best-selling Pokemon game ever, with 23.9 million copies. It outperformed even Gold and Silver, which is crazy given the Pokemon frenzy when Gold and Silver came out in 2000. So, and Sword and Shield did that in a couple of years. Gold and Silver, that's since the year 2000, and it got outperformed. And then, kind of on the side of all this, we've seen Game Freak start to explore the idea of what, like, multiple types of Pokemon game could be. Like, maybe ones that change or replace existing systems. Like, you could argue Game Freak used Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee as sort of the litmus test for a Pokemon that maybe does streamline an experience. Because remember the backlash when it was the first one to default experience sharing for all members of your party? So, those went on to then be the second best-selling remakes in the series. I think they were only a couple 100,000 behind Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, over 14 million copies. So now, like, we're here with Legends, going all in on a new idea for the first time in tandem with, over on the side, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, doing its thing, and they're both killing it. Like, Legends, in its first week, sold 6.5 million copies, which is one of the fastest-selling Switch games ever. It outperformed Sword and Shield's first week of 6 million. It surpassed Smash Bros. Ultimate's first week of 5 million. And meanwhile, we just learned in Nintendo's financials, which we'll talk about a bit more later, that Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl just moved shy of 14 million copies in about 6 weeks' time over the holidays, which is insane in and of itself. It's probably by now already the best-selling remake in Pokemon franchise history. So I think the reason I bring up all these numbers and stuff is I think it goes to show that, like, Legends, this experience, the future of Pokemon is gonna go beyond what Legends is. It's gonna go beyond what Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl is. It's gonna be all-encompassing at some point. So if you're a purist who wants your deep stats in your battles, you spoke alongside 14 million others with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. if you wanted something new or different or more world-buildy, I guess, you spoke with 6.5 million others with, Legends and made it one of the fastest-selling Switch games out there. So if I'm Game Freak, I now see two options, both which that reward fans in the same way, in a way. They could either go two routes, and the franchise can mirror how Zelda and Mario offer their own separate lines of like 2D and 3D games, and how Kirby had traditional platformers and his other stuff, I guess. I don't know what to call it. And actually, if they were to split the franchise, the irony there is that's what fans have wanted back when there was handheld and console Nintendo systems. Like, I remember, all the fans begging in the GameCube days and the Wii days, let's get like a real 3D Pokemon RPG. Like, ironically, it took Nintendo merging the platforms for Game Freak to finally do it, but if they go that route, that's an option. Or they could just merge the game ideas, like keep Legends-based gameplay, but add in some of the deeper mechanics, add in some new battle systems. I think either way they go, it's really exciting because we're basically back in like the red and blue days for the first time. There's all sorts of potential here for how Pokemon expands its gameplay at a scale we haven't seen in like literally 25 years. It's an inflection point of sorts. And I think besides Legends being really fun because it feels so fresh and different, I think what's going to be fun is seeing how it now plays out as they expand what Legends is or can be, or what Pokemon even is or can be. Like, I personally kind of hope they merge the games back together and do something that's a little of everything. But would you prefer, especially Angel, since I know you're a battle guy, would you prefer if they kept kind of the traditional games traditional and let the battles live there, or would you be interested in seeing it kind of merge in and maybe have some different?
I guess merging them wouldn't necessarily make me more enticed to play because, like I said in the past, like, this kind of stuff like sounds interesting. I think if anything, I guess I would prefer to keep them separate because I like the fact it's so different and its own thing makes me interested in trying it out someday. Because at the end of the day, like I said, my ideal official Pokemon game is literally just a fancy like stat.
Wouldn't it be like Battle Revolution 2 essentially?
Not even because Battle Revolution 2, like, I mean, those are fun. Like, you could put your Pokemon in there. Like, I mean, I love Battle Revolution. Like, that was one of my favorite. That's probably like as close as they got to like just having really fun single player content for competitive battling, which was great. But just like I just want an official Pokemon Showdown, which is, if you're not familiar, Pokemon Showdown is basically a browser game that is basically a battle simulator. Like, you literally just enter the stats of the Pokemon you want, and you just battle against random people, and just create your perfect team. Like, it pretty much cuts away it pretty much just turns it into chess at that point. Like, you're just doing the battles, like, just the battles. Like, the perfect Pokemon are already perfect, because that's not the point. Like, I'm not gonna battle with an imperfect team. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that'd be ideal. Pokemon the way it is now is fine, just the way it is. For what it does, it kind of satisfies both parties, I feel. I guess I thought it did equally. But this new direction sounds perfect for that other side. And I don't know, maybe a new way for me to rediscover Pokemon in a way that I haven't really tried enjoying it in a while. So,
where do you stand on all this, Kevin? Because like Angel's very passionate about his battles, clearly. But what's like Pokemon to you?
I guess it would lean a little bit closer to this. Probably an open world. I don't know. It'd have to be sort of like, I don't know. It would have to be essentially Legends gameplay, or like Legends-esque gameplay in the world of like Sword and Shield. So a little bit more modern.
So a little more visible linear progression, a little more like activity in the world.
Yeah,
a little more structure.
Cool. Yeah, I would dig that, but because I'm not a huge competitive Pokemon player. I mean, I'm barely a Pokemon player at all. But yeah, if there was something more akin to Legends, there's something about Legends that just doesn't, I guess, like tickle my fancy. So it looks fun, but I don't know. There's something off about this game that just doesn't resonate with me.
I kind of get what you mean. Like, I think that's why Nintendo was so weird with how they marketed it. Like, the fact that it was the best-selling one of the top fastest-selling Switch games like ever is crazy, given how little Nintendo actually like put out about the game, or even like promoted the game compared to some other ones. But I think that's partly because it does have kind of that feeling of like, I want to say it's a prototype, but it definitely feels, and I think I used the word before, that it kind of sometimes feels very mechanical. Like it feels like you're going through the systems of the game versus like being part of this grander experience. And fortunately for me, the systems of the game create this kind of living, breathing Pokemon world I've always wanted. So I'm going to overlook some of the like, strings and pulleys that are kind of in a way visible, but it definitely like is, I can see how it would be like, oh, well, this is like kind of open world, but you can like see how it all works. There's not really like a structure to it, but there is, but it's not really like a gameplay structure. It's just like, yeah, it's in a weird gray area in that. So I kind of know where it's coming from in terms of just feeling slightly like tilted or stilted or something. Yeah. But I do think, like I said, I think the future of Pokemon is super exciting because Game Freak's finally gotten to the point where they're comfortable trying things, and it took them way too long to do that. And it does also kind of transition us nicely into the news portion of our episode because a big part of the story of Pokemon's success of late, the sales story of how, in 2021, Pokemon sold more games in the United States than any other time in the last 20 years. All that was possible because of what it's on, which is the Switch. And, you need that install base in order to hit those milestone numbers. So, that install base actually just hit its own milestones as part of Nintendo's holiday quarter financial report. They confirmed a new sales total of 103.54 million units. Why that matters is because that surpasses the Wii's lifetime sales of 101.6 million and the PS1's lifetime sales of 102.5 million. And I will readily admit, 5 years ago on this show, I got it wrong. I straight up was saying, oh, when the Switch launches, it's going to do well, but I don't think it's going to beat the Wii. And yet here we are. And based on calculations I saw from Bloomberg, not only did it beat the Wii, Switch hit 100 million faster than any other home console in history. So double whammy against.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious this is going to happen, Jason. I don't know.
Oh, was it, Angel? Really? But I mean, it was, it has been for a few years, obvious that we get to this point. And perhaps to that degree, like the hardware story is a bit played out now. Like the only milestones left to surpass on the Nintendo side are outselling Game Boy and DS, which, was there say. I guess next would be the PS4, which has like 116. What really, it's like, it does well. That's kind of takeaway. And certainly, you could expect some slowing sales momentum at this point. And yeah, that happened with the Switch this past holiday. You could partly blame no cultural moment on the scale of Animal Crossing. I mean, I think Animal Crossing is now at about 38 million copies in a little under 2 years. I did just read that in Japan, it actually became the country's biggest selling game ever, surpassing the record held by Super Mario Brothers by more than 3 million copies. And it took only, that 2.5, a little under 2 years to do it. But you can also partly blame the chip shortages, obviously. But fact is, it was down 7% year over year, like still over 10 million between October and December. So 10 million sold during the holidays. 4 million of those were the new OLED model, but it's down nonetheless, and it continues to be down. Or Nintendo anticipates it's going to continue to be down for the rest of the fiscal year. They revised their hardware projection a second time. So originally it was 25 million for this fiscal year, so April to March. Then it was 24 million, and now it's 23 million. And again, the company line is chip shortages, and we are still talking big numbers, but it's not like we're seeing acceleration on the hardware side more. The story is just it did really well, which is what makes the software side perhaps all the more interesting, because obviously, as with Pokemon, the more people who own a Switch, the more games bought. And to that point, software sales overall actually went up 12% this past quarter to the tune of 85 million copies of games sold, which is the highest number of games sold on Switch in a single quarter since the console launched. And it's doing so well that Nintendo's actually upping their software expectations. At the same time, they're lowering their hardware expectations. They are now expecting this fiscal year, instead of 200 million games, they're going to sell 220 million. And it's a trend we're already seeing out of the holidays. On Friday, January NPD numbers came out, and Switch hardware in third place, I think for the first time ever, behind PS5 and the Xbox Series is. But 6 of the top 20 games on that top 20 chart. What?
Series? You know how?
Series? Maybe. Yeah. Let's go with Series. The Xbox Series. Yeah. That sounds like some sort of weird invading army. The Xbox Series stormed the beach. But anyway, yeah, 6 of the top 20 games sold in January were Switch exclusive, even though it was the least best-selling of the three. And the overall number one game in January, which is 2 days of sales, was Pokemon Legends Arceus. So as we kind of move away from my little Jason sales corner I just dipped us into, and we kind of move into, I guess, talking about all the different games in Nintendo Direct, just keep this software thing in the back of your mind. Like, Nintendo's current focus on growth is really with the games themselves. And with 5 years of Switch game releases and the strategies behind them now under their belt, it's interesting just how going from game to game in the Direct is almost like thumbing through a playbook of theirs. Like, they have this down cold. And in fact, since this episode of the podcast is releasing on Super Bowl Sunday, let's just do that. Let's treat this like a playbook. In the same way that during a football broadcast, the commentators walk you through the plays with the little X's and O's, we'll touch on the play being executed for each game as we discuss it from the Direct. So that's maybe a better way to fold in the financial news and just me spelling off numbers. So to go into it, which big announcement from the Direct should we start with? Mario Strikers? That sound good to you guys?
I'll allow it.
Okay. Who's excited for Mario Strikers? Where's Mario Strikers on your guys' radar?
Pretty high up there. Mario Strikers. Well, I'm a big fan of the franchise, but I think it was definitely more through osmosis because my brother and really close friend, were really competitive in that game. To the point that there was never any hope that I could ever beat any of them in a game. But it was really fun watching both of them play because it was pretty much as close as I can get to ever watching high level play. And I picked up a lot from them as well. So even though I couldn't beat them, pretty much anyone else I played was pretty much not going to stand a chance just because I played with them. But they were on a league of their own. So, having that history with it. And not to mention is this by Next Level Games? Has that been confirmed?
It's interesting. It's not crystal clear, but all signs do point. I have not found official Nintendo documentation that Next Level is developing it, but there have been references from news sites that Next Level is developing it. So I'm going to say yes, which means it'd be the first game made by Next Level Games since they were fully acquired by Nintendo.
Which would be cool because, part of what I loved so much and what I know a lot of people loved about this franchise is just how much personality the characters get. Not to mention that raw art. It's one of the few games where you see Mario just looking really pissed off. Not to mention just those dynamic angles and just poses to get those characters in. And I don't know, they also just are just much more animated, way more bouncy. I don't know, Bowser always looks cool. I love how much attention they always give him in these franchises, and it doesn't seem to be any different in this one. So
that's honestly my favorite addition they showed. So when they did the trailer for Mario Striker, I forgot to say the full name. When they did the trailer for Mario Strikers Battle League coming to Nintendo Switch this June, but when they did the trailer, I don't know if you guys noticed, but the Hyper Strike animation. So they have this new Hyper Strike move, and we'll talk about it. But I don't know if you guys remember, but all the marketing materials for the first two games, the character art, the box art, print ads, had that kind of aggressive thing you're talking about, Andrew. They all had this super aggressive, sketch-looking Mario characters, this big, bold, jagged black outlines and coloring, and it was really it looked intense and aggressive and yeah. And as much as the in-game graphics for Strikers do contrast from other Mario sports games because of the animation, because of kind of the geometry they use, everything's more angular, because of even the desaturated look of the colors, they never matched how cool that art was. That art was always it never quite synced up with what you saw in game. But now, literally, they got it. The Hyper Strike animations go into that exact style. It took them since 2005 to pull it off, but they pulled it off. They got that cool art in the game, animating, going, being a key thing, and making it the flashiest part of the game. So that to me was really cool that they were able to kind of connect those two finally after, what was it, nearly 17 years or something? So that was exciting. But in a minor, weird, nerdy way. But Kevin, is Strikers a big thing in the Kevin household?
I played a little bit of it, but nothing, not too much. Game looks fun.
It does, right? And I feel like this game's just long overdue. I don't know if it's in part because it's one of it's the one Mario sports game that really differs from the others. Angel, you're talking about visually, but like if you look at Mario Golf or tennis or even baseball or the DS basketball one, 3-on-3, they all stay true to a pretty specific approach of like what a Mario sports game should be, like arcadey but kind of grounded. And you can make the case maybe that Mario Golf Super Rush strayed from that a little, particularly with the really cool Battle Rush mode they had. But for the most part, like there's a presentation style, a tone, a general vibe that all these Mario games really adhere to, except for Mario Strikers. Like the fact that they don't even call it soccer and they're just like, oh, it's this weird sport we made up. That kind of sums it up so well because it's more than just like you apply wacky Mario items on top of a real sport. They straight up ditched the rules of the sport, and like there's such a huge emphasis on tackling and offense, and then with Charged, which was the sequel, like it got real crazy real fast because they put like electric fencing around the arenas that you could ram folks into, and there were like special character based moves for you as a team captain, but then there are also separate special moves for your sidekick teammates, and all this could all be happening at once because there's like 5-on-5 on the field at any one time. Like really, Strikers has always felt to me like the idea of what a Mario sports game could be if it wasn't just like a Mario sports game on steroids, but was one that you like tuned into in the middle of like a Roid Rage episode. Like it's like the peak, like I mean, like Wario crotch thrusting, like there or not Wario, sorry, Waluigi crotch thrusting. Like there's no, that's really the embodiment of the whole. Yeah, cross chopping, that's what it was. Yeah, but that's the embodiment of like the whole ethos of like how Strikers is different from every other Mario sport. So I think what was cool with Battle League is not just that we have this tonal shift for the first time in like 15 years, but it seems like they're trying to figure out how to make it, like how to augment the chaos in a way. Like, hey, 8 people playing on one Switch at once? Sure, why not? Let's go full party mode. And I could see it for sure, resonating with us in the same way that like doing 8-player Smash does for kind of like more chaotic fun, or like when we do Killer Queen Black and you have your teams that's 8 people around one TV, or they also have the hyper strikes that I mentioned with the art style. Like, in a way, they're not much different than the previous captain shots or whatever they're called in Charge, but the fact that they're now an on-field orb that you have to grab in order to start powering up your hyper strikes meter, like that is going to guarantee there's going to be some Smash Bros. Style Smash Ball mayhem as everyone like tries to get to the thing at once. So it just feels like this game is just ramping up in a lot of ways, which is cool because that chaotic energy is what I think really made Strikers and Strikers Charge work so well back in the day. I think though, for as much as we saw, I do have some questions. And there's a few things I'm like, I don't know what you're doing there. Like one big one for me is about gear, this new gear system they're doing on a strategic level. This seems kind of like a cool way to add another layer to the chaos. Actually, quite literally in the literal sense, they're adding another layer because that new armor and padding on characters is very visually intense. There's a lot going on in some of those outfits. But I mean, in terms of like gameplay, like not having every character that looks the same play the same is interesting in terms of like expectations when you go into matches with opponents online. But I do wonder if this is not so much a new layer as much as it might just be a replacement. Because I don't know if you remember from Charge too well, but they had sidekick characters. And each sidekick character had a certain set of stats with them. One's more offensive, one's more defensive. One does this, one does that. And looking at the trailer and the footage they showed in the Direct, I didn't see the sidekick characters. It looks like the people that used to be the captains of a team full of these sidekicks are now teammates with one another. Like all the main Mario characters can be on a team together. So does this mean gear is a swap for sidekicks, but gameplay-wise, basically sidekicks? Like it's they're making it sound like this is a whole new system, but it might just be kind of a reskinning of something we had. So that'll be interesting to see kind of how that shakes out. My other question pertains to just how much content there may be, because the fact that you can play with strangers online, unlike in Charged, is good, and it seems like it's going to be a big deal. The game's named after it. Like the Battle League seemed like a logical thing to do in the age of Rocket League and whatnot. And, I think in and of itself, that's going to be really popular. I could see our Wednesday night gaming group like really embracing Battle League for a while. But how deep of variety is there going to be? Like, are we talking mainly an online experience here? Is there going to be some local gameplay elements too? Like, breadth of content has been a problem for Mario Sports this generation as a whole. So, like, will the same be true here? And obviously it's too early to say since there's, still plenty they could tell us between now and when it comes out June 10th. But these are definitely thoughts I had as I was kind of rewatching the trailer and being like, oh, there's this cool thing. Wait, that's familiar. Oh, there's this thing. But like, if that's the meat of the game, where's the single player? So like, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. I almost in a way don't mind if it's online only. Like if they do a multiplayer thing and they sell it at budget price, which I know they're not doing, that almost could work. Like if they did like a Mario Rocket League essentially, I could
Battle
almost get
League
behind that.
almost sounds like the name I would expect for a service type of game.
Right? Yeah, like if they, and I mean, I'm not advocating for Nintendo to do like, a battle pass thing and start charging seasons for Mario Strikers, but like, if they're charging $60, I kind of hope there's more than just the multiplayer, but I guess we'll see. I do think regardless of the answers to my questions, whatever they end up being, Strikers is the right move business-wise for Nintendo, which brings us to the play they're making here, if you will. And it's actually a pretty simple one. Mario Sports really benefited from the Switch bump. Based on the numbers shared in last week's financial report, Mario Golf Super Rush has already sold over 2.26 million copies. For point of reference, this blows way past the original N64's lifetime sales of 1.47 million, and the GameCube's Toadstool Tour, that sold 1.27 million. In fact, it's going to soon eclipse their two sales combined, and those two were the previous best sellers of Mario Golf. So already there's one Mario Sport that's just killing it on Switch, and it did in, 6 months' time? And then Mario Tennis Aces, similar success. The latest number we have for that, I actually go look it up. It comes from June 2020, at which point the game already sold 3.29 million copies. That's higher than every other entry, including both the Wii and DS versions that sold 1 million apiece, and the original N64 Mario Tennis that sold about 2.3 million. And that's as of June 2020. Like, who knows how much higher sales have climbed since. Like, that 3.29, that predates when Serena Williams was hired to do an ad campaign that had Mario Tennis, showing up in the pregame of the Super Bowl last year. Like, there's a lot of momentum with Mario Sports games on Switch. So, yeah, I think Strikers is easily a multi-million seller for Nintendo, especially if you take into consideration that the Wii version, Charged, is the highest selling of any Mario Sport game ever. It has 2.6 million in lifetime sales. Or I should rephrase that. Any Mario Sports game up to the Switch. So if you were to extrapolate out like the Switch bump, in theory, Nintendo's setting up for their best performing Mario Sports game yet with Battle League. So this, like, Nintendo business decision wise, this was a total no brainer for them. And that's the thing, is that sometimes, the business plays Nintendo's making that we're seeing in this Direct are just that simple. Like, another good example is a game that kicked off the Direct, which was Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. And much like how the game itself is a mashup of two franchises, the play here is actually built off two past Switch success stories. One is Fire Emblem, of course. Last we heard from Nintendo in June of 2020, the Switch entry, which was Three Houses, that sold 3 million copies, which means within a year of release, it's already the best-selling entry in the series' very long, 30, 40-year history. And then you got the Warrior side of the equation. Switch owners seem to love them some Nintendo tie-in Warrior games. First, we had the original Fire Emblem Warriors. It was on Switch and New 3DS simultaneously back in 2019 or something. And between those two versions, they managed to sell a combined 1 million. And then came the biggie, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Tecmo Koei just reported or Koei Tecmo, I don't remember which way their name goes. But either way, they just reported the other week that they already shipped over 4 million copies. That makes it the best-selling Warriors game on any platform ever. And again, it did it in a year. So if you look at what Three Hopes actually is, it is very specifically following the footsteps of those past successes. Not just by being a Fire Emblem Warriors sequel on a platform where the franchise already thrives, but doing so in a way that perfectly parallels what drove Age of Calamity to a 4-fold sales increase over the original Hyrule Warriors. It's a direct sequel to a best-selling entry of a franchise that already has that best-selling entry on the platform. It like Three Hopes is to Three Houses what Age of Calamity is to Breath of the Wild. Story, sequel-wise, everything, plain and simple. It's 1-to-1. So for Nintendo, it seems like a no-brainer of a move. Who among us is actually going to buy it? I can say I'm not.
I never got around to buying and playing Three Houses, so nope.
That is fair. Are you a big Warriors guy? I don't remember.
Like Warriors, like Dynasty Warriors? No, God no.
Or like just the whatever the subgenre is called. I can't remember. It's like
no,
well, you did like Persona 5 Scramble,
people
right?
call them Moshus?
I did like, yeah, they're called Musos.
There we go.
Persona 5 Strikers,
yeah,
I mean, that one was fine, but I wish it played closer to Kingdom Hearts than it did to like Dynasty Warriors. That was like my main criticism of that game.
Right. Yeah, and Angel, you've never been a Warriors guy, huh?
No, not really. It just depends on the context. Like, the context of the games that I've played it in just never seemed like a game I would want to play in that way. So, basically, like Zelda, like, I don't like the idea of Zelda in that kind of environment, so it just doesn't feel fun. I mean, like, the gameplay already, like, you know, it doesn't really gel with me too much, but I don't know. Throwing it in an Attack on Titan setting, and maybe I could get behind it, which I think is a thing. But yeah, not for Warriors, not for Fire Emblem, not for Zelda.
The irony is not lost on me that I was like, oh man, this is a slam dunk of a sales decision for Nintendo when it comes out on June 24th. Who's buying it? And then literally all three of us disproved my point. Because like for me, let's be real, no upside down Claude on the box art, no sale. No, but really, I'm not the biggest Fire Emblem player anymore or a big Warriors fan. So I think I too am passing. I think on a higher level, to your point about like how a game may skew more towards one Warriors or the franchise it's inspired by, I am curious to see how they differentiate the gameplay, if at all. Because like the original Fire Emblem Warriors, it integrated stuff like Fire Emblem's weapon triangle and like building relationships with support characters, you know, get stat boosts that way. But then if you look at like how Hyrule Warriors did it with its Zelda integration and how they enhanced it in Age of Calamity with the Sheikah Slate, you know, being both source of new attacks and for puzzle solving, like in the world. I'm kind of curious to see if Three Hopes does a similar like further integration of Three Houses, but I don't know what that would look like school lessons somehow. Like I have no idea what that could be, but it was kind of odd that for a game that comes out 2 weeks after, maybe 3 weeks after Mario Strikers, which we saw plenty of gameplay information about, Nintendo did not say a word about the gameplay of Warriors. They just kind of showed that it exists. So we'll see what it turns out to be. But yeah, it's you know, it's kind of an interesting dichotomy of how they're announcing things. But fine, let's say we're all ho-hum about Three Hopes, which it seems like we are. Maybe Nintendo Switch Sports gives us more of a reaction. I mean, that was definitely aiming to be a bigger reveal in the Direct. What do you guys make of it?
It was also kind of indifferent. I mean, I know it's a big deal. I was never that really big into Wii Sports. Like, you know, it was fun enough. I played it when I wanted to show people what the Wii was about, but beyond that, it wasn't really something I went back to unless I was, like, desperate for some kind of game or something. Like, the closest is maybe Wii Sports, and even then, yeah, so.
I don't know why.
It's cool to see it back. Maybe I'll check out online bowling. That could probably be the thing I would play the most, but yeah.
For some reason, the way you're describing, like, oh, like I didn't really play much, but when I was desperate, like maybe I'd do Wii Sports. I was just picturing like, yeah, I take like painkillers like Oxy, and if I'm desperate, I'll shoot up heroin, but only if I'm desperate. It's like, I don't know why I had that vision when you said that, but it's just like you made it sound like it's like this last resort drug you have to take if you need to play a video game. But I do get what you mean. Yeah, it was limited in its scope at the time. Kevin, did you do a whole lot of Wii Sportage in your youth?
Yeah, I did a lot of Wii Sports. Especially I did a lot of golfing with my dad. I don't know if I would buy this game, but it's definitely exciting. Like I was legitimately shocked that we were actually going to get this.
Right? Yeah, it caught me off guard too. It always seemed like it makes sense for them to do like a Wii Sports Club and Switch Online, but I didn't think they'd do like a full new, you know, even the sports, they changed the sports. There's 6 new sports. Well, some are old, but there's 6 sports, different selection than past Wii Sport. I mean, what do you guys think of the sports? Any of those? I guess, Angel, you don't really have an opinion, but Kevin, since you did play more, like any of the new ones catch your eye, potentially interesting?
You're going to have to remind me of what the new ones were. I remember,
oh, sure.
I remember badminton being one of them, but that's just small tennis, so I don't really care for that.
Yeah, it's baby tennis. Yeah, there's bowling, tennis, badminton, soccer, volleyball, and chambara,
volleyball
which is
cool.
the kind of sword fighting. Yeah.
What was the other one? before Chambara?
Chambara, or however you say it, which is soccer. Yeah, yeah. You know what?
It just looked like a less exciting Rocket League because of how big the ball is.
It's weird because, like, honestly, of the three new ones, I like bowling and tennis are a given. Those are gonna be great. You know, they did say golf is coming at a later time, so I don't want to forget that. That's gonna be good too. It'll be free. And I kind of like the Chambara thing more than boxing. Like, it's just a less violent boxing. But honestly, the sword fighting thing in Wii Sports Resort, which is what Chambara is based on, like, that was a highlight of Resort, in my opinion. So that's cool. But yeah, the new three, I'm kind of just like, I had the exact same reaction to badminton. I'm just like, because, like, I mean, really, it's swapping out the tennis mechanic the same way like baseball did. Because in the original Wii Sports, it's like, oh, you're doing the swing you would do roughly with tennis, except now you're timing it differently to pretend it's a baseball bat. Okay, so badminton's just like, oh, it's just smaller, so the swings are smaller, but it's the same motion. Volleyball, to me, seems to capture the simplicity of the original Wii Sports based on what we saw in the presentation. You only make a few key moves, and movements mostly handled automatically, so sure, okay, that might be fun. But yeah, soccer, I can't get a read on that. I'm in the same like camp as you guys. Like the thing that I think really worked with Wii Sports is it felt like a natural extension of your body, right? Like you had this Wii remote and you swing it like you're holding a tennis racket and it hits the ball like one, or you make an underhand motion like you're lobbing a bowling ball and so it does. There goes a bowling ball. So like they're doing this cool thing with soccer where they're going to support the leg strap and you'll actually be able to kick and you'll use that with the Joy-Con. And that's coming in a summer update for Switch Sports. And then sure, that might be good. Your leg functions like an in-game leg. But launching it with just hand-based Joy-Con controls, like, one, that felt like the least, like, connected to the experience of any of the sports. And two, it just looked like, there's just, like, watching it even, there's, like, this awkward, like, inorganicness to it in the video. And I'm really curious to see how it feels like to actually try and play. And I find it kind of maybe telling that, so Nintendo's doing this online playtest thing this coming weekend, the President's Weekend, for Switch Sports, and soccer, the more unique one, is not part of the test. Only the safest bets, tennis, bowling, and Chambara, are making the cut. So I don't know what that means for soccer. I will obviously have hands-ons of what it means for the sports that are there in our next episode, but like for soccer, we're going to have to wait till April 29th to see how that turns out when the full game launches. But it's definitely an odd choice compared to some of the others. I do think, weirdly, though, my biggest takeaway from Switch Sports wasn't even that it was surprised by it. Like, it was a nice surprise, and I think that was exciting, but, like, it kind of made me feel old. Like, Wii Sports didn't feel like that long ago until the tail end of the segment when they did that throwback to the Nintendo execs playing against each other, and that immediately took me back to seeing in, like, the Dolby Theater back in 2006, and it's crazy if you put the two matches side by side in your head then and now, just how much has actually changed. Like, obviously there's different hardware a couple times over, but Reggie and Iwata are gone. Now we have Koizumi.
Didn't realize that was done before.
Oh yeah. That's how they revealed the very first Wii Sports. So they had some Nintendo execs play it on stage. Actually, did a contest with AOL, just to show you the era, with AOL, where you could enter to win a chance to play Wii Sports on stage with Nintendo's exec team. So there was initially Miyamoto, Reggie Iwata, and Bill Trennan, and then I believe Bill Trennan swapped out for literally a Nintendo fan that was sent to this event on Nintendo's dime through a contest to play Wii Sports with these guys. And it was like this huge deal, this huge contest. But yeah, like, Koizumi and Takahashi are now the Reggie and Iwata. They're playing each other online instead of in person. The way we're watching it all unfold is now on a pre-recorded video instead of a live stage show that's being broadcast. Like, obviously, there's some changes, like the graphics are noticeably different, especially with how Mii's are now sidelined in favor of those more elaborate-looking Sportmate people that remind me a little too much of like mid-2000s Wii Sport knockoff games. But like mentally, it was all that change was like a lot to see for my poor little brain, because I obviously Nintendo's evolved, but we rarely see like a beat-for-beat sort of recreation of something we saw before again, and it really made me realize how far we've come since, 2006. But I do think the improvements are for the better across the board. Like, at a base level, I think it looks great, like, visually. And setting it in that giant mall gym thing full of details and like people going about their lives in the background. It's one of those neat, subtle ways that Nintendo's able to highlight how much more like modern this game is compared to Wii Sports. Like it really does look graphically like it's taking a big leap forward. And I do kind of like the idea behind some of the new gameplay loops. They didn't talk about too much in the presentation, but they are kind of in a similar vein to how Mario Strikers is putting such an emphasis on battle leagues. There is something to be said for the core loop of Wii Sports now being dependent on how you do against other real people in a given sport, just like with real sports. You know, be it, you perform well enough to compete online in these pro leagues they're setting up, or you just, get unlockables that you customize your character with through playing people and winning. Like, it just feels a little more real than what Wii Sports was. And as much as I'll miss the Miis, I do kind of get why these strange little sportmate people, as they're calling them, why they're in the game. Like, they do kind of make sense, because I think they're part of a broader set of parallels being drawn by Nintendo between Switch Sports and Ring Fit Adventure, and I think that's the play here. Like, I keep talking about Nintendo's plays. That's the play with Switch Sports, I think, because they're leveraging the fact that as of this last financial report, there are 13.5 million copies of Ring Fit out there. It is the 10th best-selling game on the Switch of all time. It's a big flashing signal that yes, motion-based games can be successful in the Switch era like they were in the Wii. So within that, I think Nintendo's seeing two opportunities. One is to just straight up capture some of that same Ring Fit audience. Make something that also gets players up and active, find a new use for the leg strap they're already familiar with, maybe even mirror some of the smaller progression markers like unlocking new outfits and accessories, hence the sports mates. It's minor. Tons of games do that sort of loop, but reducing any level of friction for newcomers from Ring Fit into this, that can only be a good thing, right? Like, that's just a win for Nintendo. But second, I think it's also, this whole game is also a play to like the broader base. Obviously on some level, there's nostalgia at play. I was talking about how it made me feel old, and Nintendo knows how to harness it well. Like, there are 83 million copies of Wii Sports out there, and from the Wii's lifetime, there are 33 million copies of Wii Sports Resort sold. Like, those are numbers that I don't think Nintendo's going to ever, even with a Switch bump, overcome. Like, those are crazy high numbers. But Nintendo does know that they can get a chunk of that. So what if Nintendo gets, half that audience, a quarter of that? Let's say they then get a quarter of the Ring Fit crowd. They potentially right there already have a new entrant for one of Switch's top 10 bestsellers ever. Just off that. So it kind of, like, all the decisions they're making and how they're doing the game and even swapping out Miis, like, it all kind of makes sense when you think about what the potential of this game is from a business perspective. So I get it. I'll miss my Miis. They're still there as an option, but they're not the main thing. But, yeah. So are you guys actually... So neither of you are actually buying it, huh?
Yeah. I'm glad it exists, but I'm probably not going to add it to my... Or at least not right now.
Yeah, this sort of game
fair.
I feel like works much, much better with a group of people, at least in the household. At least one more person in the household that will play it, and I just unfortunately do not have that. So
I think it'll be interesting how much, to my point about they're going for two audiences, like the Ring Fit crowd and the class and the nostalgia crowd. I do wonder how much nostalgia among the Nintendo fandom will actually drive this, because I do think you're right. Like, for a lot of us, college, high school, that's when the Wii was a thing and we always had friends around. But if you don't have that as you're older now, is there as much of an appeal? Because online exists and the feedback loop's great, but it's not the same as your buddy being right there next to you. So we shall see. But it is interesting as we keep making our way down the list of direct announcements.
What you did there.
What? We shall see. Oh, hey, that was not intentional. No, but I was going to say it is kind of interesting to keep making our way down the list of direct announcements. This sort of like crisscrossing of strategies that keeps sort of deepening or becomes more convoluted depending on how you look at it. And I think the prime example of the most like galaxy brain move they're doing here in a way was the surprise reveal that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is finally, at long last, getting proper DLC to the tune of 48 new tracks, which is a crazy high number, between now and the end of 2023, and what Nintendo's calling the Booster Course Pass. It'll be for $25 on the eShop or free with a Switch Online Plus expansion pack subscription. And to really quick breakdown for those who may have missed it, how it's going to work. It's similar to the Smash Ultimate Fighter Pass. We know how many courses, we know the time frame, and we get them revealed and released over extended period in batches of 8 tracks, so 2 cups at a time, starting on March 18th with the Golden Dash Cup and the Lucky Cat Cup, which will come with Mario Kart 7's Toad Circuit, Wii's Coconut Mall, DS's Shroom Ridge, Super Circuit Sky Garden, 64's Choco Mountain, or Choco Mountain, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Either way, it's a classic of a track. And perhaps more interestingly, 3 courses from Mario Kart Tour: Paris Promenade, Tokyo Blue, and Ninja Hideaway. And I feel like this was the bombshell. This was the real surprise of the Direct. What did you guys make of it? Like, how did you feel when this was announced?
So I was like, damn, it took how many years to get to this point?
5.
I guess we're going to have to wait that many years. 5?
Yeah.
I mean, I would also count the original Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I mean,
the original Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, or the original Mario Kart 8 only became Deluxe when they added the DLC that was originally sold separately. It had DLC.
No, yeah, I mean, that's how long has
5 years is still a very long time. Your point still stands. I was just giving you.
Yeah, regardless. Yeah, so it's like, then we're gonna have to wait this long to also get Mario Party Superstars DLC, or does that mean we're maybe close to getting that as well? But either way,
we're closer. Yeah.
Either way, super great to see. I mean, obviously a big fan of this game since we played it a ton. Probably like Smash Bros. Number 2 as far as like my brother and I were concerned. So yeah, I never really got tired of Mario Kart 8. Still play it regularly from time to time. So this is pretty much what I wanted from Deluxe, because Deluxe didn't give us any new tracks, at least racing track. So yeah, pretty happy with it. Hopefully we get a character into somewhere, even though those don't really matter. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to. But Kevin, how about you? Where you make of this, and maybe more interestingly, what you make of how they're selling it?
Very brave of them in this political landscape to call it booster pack. As far as
wow, that didn't occur to me. It's pretty funny.
I mean, this is exciting. This is the next best thing that we could have possibly gotten outside of just a brand new Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Kind of little bummed that it's going to take all of 2 years to get everything out. And that also means that we are just not going to get a brand new Mario Kart until at least 2024. But yeah, this is super exciting.
Yeah, the whole like no new Mario Kart thing. I've been seeing this joke online that people are like, "Oh yeah, this is Mario Kart 9, but NEIN, like the German word for no, because it's just more Mario Kart 8." But and it's delaying Mario Kart 9 ultimately happening. But yeah, it is interesting that they kind of aren't doing a new Mario Kart anytime soon. Like they're saving that. It seems like they're saving that for the Switch too, and instead we're just gonna get what amounts to Mario Kart Ultimate in the meantime. Because I think between the 48 tracks that are there and the 48 tracks that are coming, like I think somewhere between half and 2/3 of every Mario Kart track ever made are gonna be in this game by the end of the day. Crazy to think about. Are there any specific tracks that you guys would want to see added?
I guess GameCube, a lot of GameCube ones. GameCube Rainbow Road, DK Mountain. Oh my gosh, definitely Rainbow Road from 3DS. Damn, that Rainbow Road is amazing. That has to be in there.
Is that the one where you land on the moon?
Yeah, that one.
I was never a fan of that one.
That's like you get to drive on the rings of Saturn and stuff.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, that was that one. You know, it's funny because I always thought the space station one felt like the weirdest.
Oh, the Wii one. I love the Wii Rainbow Road too. That one was a tough track. Bring that one over too.
So you just want all the Rainbow Roads. I'm surprised you didn't mention. I mean, well, Kevin, are there any that you would want? Do you have any tracks you lust after for Mario Kart?
To mind, Waluigi. Oh God, excuse me. Waluigi Pinball would be pretty cool.
Yes, that was gonna be mine. I mean, it's so glitzy and vibrant. Like seeing that, and it's only been in handheld games, so seeing it in HD on a TV, yeah, that'd be super cool.
Yeah, that'd be dope. I would love to see that one. Aside from that, I can't really think of any more. But I would have to look at the tracks from previous games. I never played a Mario Kart Wii, so whatever tracks are in there just completely throw out the window for me.
Honestly, I'm gonna regret saying this. Someone's gonna come at me, but I thought Mario Kart Wii was kind of weak, so I don't really have fond memories of the tracks. The tracks were fun, but just I don't know, the expansion to the number of carts and the introduction of bikes, like it did not hit with me. So I'm right there with you with the tracks not being me. Like I know Coconut Mall, but I couldn't name a track from Wii that stood out because the whole game was kind of a wash for me. We probably lost like 5 listeners to me saying that, but yeah. I do think what's going to be kind of fun, though, is seeing what we get, like literally just seeing what we get, like learning what's to come, being surprised, having it play into our nostalgia. Like, this is the way Nintendo's doing this. While it does suck that's going to take like 2 years to get it, it is basically a lower scale version of the hype cycle from like the Smash Fighter Pass, right? Like, obviously nothing's going to be able to surpass that, but it's still going to be kind of fun to have this constant thing to look forward to throughout Nintendo's activities for next year or so, where like you tune in and for all you know you have 8 new Mario tracks by the end of whatever you're watching, like that, or this track you love.
Too bad there's no
like that's cool
out of the box picks though. There's no like, oh, it could literally be anything. It's just like, no, it could just be from these things. That's
my bar. But I think for me at least, like one thing I'm actually excited about is the Mario Kart Tour tracks being added in, because like that. Like, Tour is such a weird situation. Like, on one hand, like, there's all these new cool tracks that are there for the first time inside Tour, and they're often based on these real-world locations, so it's, like, themed even differently from other Mario Karts. But, like, there's this divide of players and of, like, Mario Kart between, like, there's... I feel like there's, at least I'm one of them, where they don't really feel like proper Mario Kart tracks because, like, you know what I mean? Because they're not in, like, a real quote-unquote Mario Kart. Like, they're behind free-to-play systems and smartphone controls. And, while the game on mobile is better than it was, like, it's still not as good as a regular Mario Kart. So having them now, like, these tracks now, like, liberated from the shackles of a different type of Mario Kart and brought into 8 Deluxe, like, what I at least consider to be a true Mario Kart, like, that's cool seeing. I think for me that's going to be kind of what you're getting at, Angel, where there are going to be these tracks that are in a way new content if you don't really play Tour, and for me that fills that void. And the fact that in the first 8 tracks they're releasing, Tour is the only one with multiple. Like, every other game has 1, Tour is 3. Like, that already is kind of a strong start. So I'm kind of hoping, especially since Tour keeps introducing new tracks as time goes on, I'm kind of hoping they just start sort of bringing over a lot of those, and then that is in a way new content. But I mean, because you don't really play Tour either, right? So those are gonna be new for you too, aren't they?
I played Tour enough,
but like, I don't even think half those tracks were there when you played it. Oh, you did?
Yeah, I recognize them.
Okay, well, never mind. But I do think for Nintendo too, it's an interesting play that they're making. Like, they're really trying to bridge the gap between their core games and their mobile games here, because, like, frankly, their mobile business, like, it's kind of stagnant right now. Like, they kept it brief in their financials, but there was a blurb that income from smartphone games declined year on year, which then pushed their entire bucket of, like, mobile and IP based business down by like 5.2% or something. And they have found some success. Fire Emblem Heroes, it's actually on the cusp of generating $1 billion in total revenue. That's coming from analytics firm Sensor Tower. But no other game has approached that, like, at all. Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, that's at like $267 million, which, Nintendo's now trying to give it a boost with this 5.0 update that includes a different 99-cent subscription if you're on, playing on your phone, and has its own perks like journaling and the like. And then under that, that's where Mario Kart Tour sits, and that has $259 million in total revenue so far. So in a way, like, this push they're doing to Tour inside Mario Kart 8, it almost feels like they're trying to, like, reverse their usual player acquisition flow. Like, as much as Tour and the mobile games appeal to some who have never owned a game console and could gravitate maybe towards buying one because they like Tour, I have to imagine the emphasis on Tour tracks is to a degree Nintendo attempting to market and drum up interest among the core console owners that, hey, there's this mobile experience over here too if you want to dive deeper. And kind of my hope is they start ping-ponging back and forth the tracks a little quicker, so that, maybe in the tail or back half of the booster course pack or course booster pack or whatever the sequence of those words is, maybe by then we are seeing tracks that are new to Tour and to Mario Kart 8, and, the pacing between is maybe only a month or two off, and then there is possibly for you, Angel, some actual fresh content. Hopefully. Possibly. But it is interesting that Tour is, like, the one so far that's getting the most attention. And I also think, we didn't really touch on it, the way they're selling this is interesting. Like, Kevin, you don't have expansion pack. Are you going to upgrade to the Switch Online expansion pack, or are you just going to pay $25?
Hell no, I'm just paying $25.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, it honestly, like, I think the added value, like, to me, that was kind of the biggest win. Like, this feels like the missing piece needed to really help boost expansion packs value, right? Because like $50 a year for N64 games, Genesis games, what amounts to a whole nother Mario Kart 8.5, Happy Home Paradise for Animal Crossing. Who knows what other DLC they may fold into the future? Like, that doesn't seem as bad as it did before they had like all this DLC stuff. I mean, like, it's really not that horrible, especially when you consider that they're selling. Essentially, if you break down the value, if you say, okay, $25, whatever, that is, you're saving $5 to get the equivalent of $30 worth of content, because, you know, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is $60, it's 48 tracks, they're giving you 48 more for $25. But if you then pile in all that other stuff, like, you are getting a deal on these tracks if you do a subscription service. But the recurring thing, I can see how that could be. And Angel, you have expansion pass, so I imagine you're just going to take the free tracks.
Yeah, I mean, it was like the cherry on top.
Yeah,
I was already
right?
going to pay the money, and then I was like, oh, even better.
So I think that is kind of the world Nintendo's hoping more, or the direction Nintendo's hoping more people are going into, is what you and I are doing. Because like for Nintendo, like this is a play they're making here. Like as is true with I guess every tech company, services are becoming a more important factor. You know, why else would they even do something like Shadow Drop the 2 Earthbounds on Switch Online during the Direct, for example? Like obviously that's to get people to check out the service if they haven't. But what's interesting with the Course Booster is that Nintendo is acting on opportunity to not just, you know, sell some subscriptions, but also reverse course on declines they're seeing with their evergreens, and then using those same evergreens to do that, to, you know, catch up that money and then some. So to put in perspective a bit, because that maybe didn't make sense, during the Q&A portion of their financial briefing, which is yet another document they upload to their server that we will link to in our episode's blog post. But anyway, in there, Nintendo's president, Shintaro Furukawa, noted that as more people begin to double dip in hardware purchases like the OLED model, there is a decrease occurring in evergreen sales since, you know, folks already own the games. They have a Switch array. So typically, and this is kind of interesting, Nintendo says that about 60% of their software sales on Switch are evergreen. And then the second or third game that a new Switch owner buys ends up being an evergreen game. So there's some newer one that maybe entices them, but then they start backtracking into the older games. This year, the evergreen rate's only been 50%, or at least this past quarter, and they anticipate that decline's going to continue. But those evergreens that, you know, maybe are seeing fewer new sales, they've racked up a ton of people. I mean, we know Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is an insanely big seller. The latest numbers as of this financial report, so through the end of 2021, put it at selling 43 million copies. If you want an even crazier number, if you add in the Wii U version, this is Nintendo's second best-selling game in its history at over 50 million copies. But for the sake of this conversation, let's just stick to that 43 million, the actual Switch count. That's nearly half of all Switch owners. So there's clearly an opportunity now, for lack of a better word, to activate those Mario Kart players to join Switch Online if they haven't yet, or at least cough up $25 for the course pass by itself, like you're doing, Kevin. And it's a move that Nintendo's already proven to work to get people to subscribe, or at least fork over money that they wouldn't otherwise because they already bought the game. Like in that same Q&A I mentioned, Furcom commented that the growth of Switch Online and, you know, the existing Animal Crossing Happy Home Paradise expansion, those, while he didn't give a hard number, he did say that they helped propel Nintendo's digital sales by 31% year over year to a new all-time high. So it's clearly working, and that's just taking into account the folks who do own Mario Kart. But separately, there's a metric shared in the financials that the Switch's annual player count for 2021 was 98 million people. This can include, to be fair, multiple Switch accounts on a single, or Nintendo accounts on a single Switch. But nonetheless, 98 million people in 2021 played a game. So let's say every one of those 43 million copies of Mario Kart was played in 2021 as well. That still leaves, in a not quite apples to apples comparison here, but that still leaves something like 50 million potential Mario Kart players. Realistically, that pool is probably even bigger because not everyone was playing Mario Kart. And as we know with DLC, and Furcom himself emphasized this in the Q&A, DLC, expansions, all that stuff don't just help existing owners double dip. They act as marketing that comes to, but how I word this. it acts as marketing to attract new folks who maybe otherwise wouldn't have bought in the game too. It elevates the profile of the game. So if you then tie that to your subscription service, well, there you go. Now you're elevating the attention on your subscription service. Like essentially, Nintendo's found a way to get money out of existing Mario Kart owners for the first time in 5 years, attract new owners, bolster subscription numbers, and offset a decline in evergreen sales, all with this one move. And in a weird way, it's basically what Rockstar does with GTA 5. Like, this is Nintendo's
and Microsoft.
Yeah, sucks to be you guys. No, but like lots of companies do this. Because what I was trying to say is like GTA 5, Take-Two, and Rockstar. It's the exact same strategy they did. They took an old game, they augmented it with new stuff. They did the Dr. Dre thing a year ago, whatever that was called. Or not even a year ago. This past couple months ago. And that keeps selling forever, and it's like a little platform of itself. And Mario Kart 8 Deluxe looks like it's going to be the same. It's really the closest we've seen Nintendo come on a home console to really on a home console to embracing a true games as service mindset. Or I guess in this case, more of like a game funneling into a service. But games as services, like in general, I don't know if you guys like noticed that, but there were a lot of them in the Direct this time around. MLB The Show, Taiko no Tatsujin is having I think that's how you say it, is having a song subscription service for the first time. There's that Disney kart racer, Speedstorm, that's free to play. In the Japanese directors revealed that Chocobo GP, the Final Fantasy kart racer, that's got a season pass with characters like Cloud added. Even in a weird way, you could argue that a game like No Man's Sky showing up on Switch kind of is like one of those games of service games in a way. I mean, that one's probably closer to how Mario Kart isn't truly a game of service, but like Mario Kart, it is one that constantly gets bundled content, pushed to it and new features, and it's really kind of evolved into a different game, which is what Mario Kart will be, 48 tracks from now. So yeah, it's just interesting that so much on Switch is moving in that direction. Mario Kart for Nintendo is kind of leading the charge. And also, this was a weird way for me to bring up No Man's Sky, because honestly, that was kind of a surprise to see in the Direct. And to have it look as good as it did in the footage, like, I don't know what Hello Games is doing, but that was impressive.
I really hope that it runs as well as it does in the footage, because while Hello Games has made incredible strides to make that game not the incredible disappointment that it was on launch, it's going to look like they have egg on their face if that trailer looks as good as it does and the game just not is able to keep up with it. I originally thought that this was going to be a cloud version.
Yeah, apparently it's running on the Switch. So they did a blog post, Hello Games, where they said that all the procedural content is, the generated content, it's all being done, the generation itself is being done on device, which is crazy. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe there's like some, I don't know, like cloud element, or maybe they're offloading some of the work, but nope. Steven Totillo of Axios, he tweeted that he was directly told that the whole thing is on Switch. It's running on Switch, which is really crazy, because if it does hold up, like if you put that side by side with something like Pokemon Legends Arceus, like it really goes to show what the Switch can actually do. And apparently, Hello Games has spent over 2 years with a small team making this possible, and they considered it a moonshot at the time, so they didn't even think it'd necessarily work. And then they got it to the point where it actually can, which is crazy dedication.
Cool. I will wait until we actually see it.
You think it might be vaporware?
I'm not saying there's going to be vaporware. I will believe that game runs on Switch as well as it did in that trailer when it releases.
That's fair. It is fun, because I'm like sitting here like, oh, it's so cool, it's so impressive, but like, I don't know if I always thought the concept of No Man's Sky was really interesting, but it's so open-ended that at the same time I'm kind of like, I can actually dedicate the time to this? Like, is it too open-ended? I mean, have either of you played it on any system or PC or anything?
No, I haven't played it. I know Elvis played it a little bit.
Yeah. I'm going to have to pick his brain back.
Just watched him play it. Seemed to really like it, even before the whole missing features. I mean, he still seemed to play it enough, but he did run out of content or things to do, or he just got bored. But then he got back into it. And I don't know if he's going to try the VR, if that's already out.
Yeah, that's the sense. I just can't quite tell where it goes. Like what do you ultimately do? Like, I don't know. It's if it eventually comes to Switch and runs as smoothly as they say, maybe I'll give it a chance. But yeah, we shall see. But that's kind of a tangent. Though, really, those were everything we talked about the Direct so far were kind of games that took pages from different parts of Nintendo's playbook. But there was a crop of games in the presentation that I'd say used like a tired and true strategy we all know very well, which is being a sequel. I'd say that approach encompasses the likes of Splatoon 3 and Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and the surprise closer of the presentation, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which was finally revealed after many months of rumors and leaks. Either of you Xenoblade people at all?
Nope.
Same.
Maybe
Angel?
Elvis, he did play part 2, but
yeah, I did. I did.
About the first one to support it.
What a good guy. You were part of a group of people that helped it make just shy of 1 million on the Wii in terms of sales numbers. So here's the thing, though. It's going to be big on Switch. I mean, the definitive edition of the one you bought on Wii went on to sell 1.5 million. And then the sequel on Switch, Chronicles 2, sold 2 million. So I have to imagine this new one has potential to go even further. So like that seems like it's just a slam dunk for Nintendo in terms of good sales. And I will say, I know nothing about the game. I'm not going to play it. But whatever faction of people in that trailer had the cool Tron aesthetic. Yeah, that was cool. So good for them. They make good.
I think that's just Xenoblade's aesthetic in general.
I don't think to that extent. Like I know the sword has it, but like they had it like on their armor and on their stuff, and it was cool. And if that's the whole game, then maybe I'll have to actually play because I love the Tron aesthetic. I don't know if it's enough to make me play a game, but like I do, like I love the look of Tron, especially Tron Legacy. But anyway, yeah, that was Xenoblade, so cool. I think Kirby and the Forgotten Land is another one. I feel like there's not a whole lot to say besides mouthful mode. Is everyone enjoying Kirby eating cars? Carby, as you coined it, Kevin?
I mean, that didn't make me any more excited honestly, for the game, honestly.
Yeah, I'm already indifferent about the game. Like, it looked fine. I don't know what it is that got me jaded on Kirby. At least, like, anything traditional Kirby. I'm still calling this traditional Kirby, even though it's in 3D.
I mean, it's essentially tilted on Z-axis. It's regular Kirby, yeah.
But, I don't know, my first impression from, like, literally, like, the first thing I thought of was, oh, they just couldn't come up with a car Kirby design, so they just kind of did that. So it's kind of sad.
No, Angel, no. Because you got it all wrong.
I like the idea, but like they also just kind of, unfortunately for me, they just kind of come off as lazy.
No, like see, you, sir. You mean the design of it being not like a car enemy power up?
Yeah,
like...
because Kirby has literally transformed into a wheel before. Like these are just like. How do we make a car Kirby? Like, let's just not and just have it not fully get sucked up because I guess Kirby can't actually suck up the car.
No.
He has a bottomless pit, which was proven in like Kirby's, which one? Like the mouse one, Squeak Squad. So I was just kind of perplexed by it. It's like, why can't he suddenly not completely suck things up and take their things? But it is what it is.
If you were going into the deeper lore of Kirby here, I'm just going to point something out real quick. And that's why I kept saying, no, you're wrong. You're looking at like a new take on his copy ability. What you should look at it as, and it doesn't excuse the design point you're making. Personally, I love the fact that they made it so you could like still see the thing. Like, and I think the internet's
it's fun and silly. I mean, I don't dislike it. It's just like,
yeah, it's great.
I'd like to see what they could have got, what they could have created.
Yeah, but no, in terms of concept of what they're doing here, it's not a copy ability. This is a kind of clever riff, I guess you could say, on his animal buddies from Kirby's Dream Land 2, or even more recently, like the Robobot suit in Planet Bobobot. But yeah, basically, like, he always had his copy abilities, but they also in the games over the years introduced other forms of like transportation with their own physics and abilities that were beyond just, Kirby having a move but staying true to his physics. So like in Kirby's Dream Land, you had like Gooey and you had the hamster and you had stuff like that. And those guys would actually behave differently. And here, and then Robobot, you had the robot suit, which was slow and bulky. And here, all the things they're showing, the cone, the light bulb, the thing that you're flying in the air with that looks like kind of an arc, and most notably the car, they all handle differently, move differently, behave differently. They're not just he has a power. It's literally like you are controlling this other object. So when you look at it through that lens, it makes sense that it's not
when
just
like
a normal copy. When I look at it through that
lens, I recall Kirby 64 and other Kirby games where when he had a copy ability, he just transforms into said object, and his mobility also changes along with like his physics and stuff. Not as often, but it could have also been that. Like he could have sucked up like the car, and then you press B, and he just like goes vroom vroom, and then he's like like literally his wheel ability. Like suddenly you can't stop him from rolling, and you have to like watch for his shorter hop, faster hop, and his crazy speed. And he just kind of goes in and out of the ability, because when he's in it, he's literally a vehicle. When he's out of it, he controls like normal, which I'm guessing is going to be this. When you're driving around the car, you're stuck driving and doing the ability that the car would have, but then, you leave the car presumably at some point because you can't progress with it, and that's pretty much it. Yeah,
I think you're spot on that it's going to be only when you're, like, the abilities will only hold true when you're in that shape, yeah.
So
there's multiple ways that this could have gone, clearly. I thought I had the clever answer, but it seems like Hal has given too many options over the years. But I will say, I think part of the reason it works, this design, even though it's not as fully designed as you're saying, is because of the graphic fidelity of finally getting like an HD 3D detailed, like, next gen quote unquote Kirby. Like, the amount of detail to like put a little car under him, like it would look janky if it was on even like the GameCube, but it that extra Christmas goes a long way for some weird silly stuff like this sometimes.
And I mean, honestly, this is literally just a nitpick. I mean, the fact that they are already like showing the fact that you can level up the abilities, and those will get more and more elaborate as you go on, and can they literally show that like he becomes a dragon at some point and can fly around, just like that one glider thing that he has for certain levels. So yeah,
it definitely has the most depth, I think, of any Kirby game in terms of what his powers mean and the variety of said powers, which include, in this case, eating inanimate objects as being powers in a way. They're not copy abilities, but they are powers. So, yeah, it's going to be, I'm hoping, because it goes as deep as it seems to go, that it also means this is going to be a bit meatier of a Kirby game than some others, because a lot of Kirby games are a bit on the, simpler, shorter side. So if this one really leans in on some of this more intricate, elaborate stuff, and even as we talked about a few episodes ago, how like as you progress, you like build out your town. Like there's all these elements and layers that make it seem like there's gonna be more here to a typical Kirby game. So we shall find out in just about a month if that holds true, but it's definitely promising. If you're not turned off with traditional Kirby like you are, Angel, it's promising for those who still care. But it does bring us to, I guess, the final of the three sequels. Literally the sequels with threes in them. Splatoon 3, which I do think is maybe the most sequel-y looking of the bunch. We got our first look at Salmon Run, Next Wave as they're calling it, the updated version of that mode. And Angel, you're a big Salmon Runner. How's it looking to you?
Damn, I mean, mechanically, I'm really excited to play it because I've been wanting for them to incorporate like a throwing ability for so long, and the fact that we finally got that is it's game changing. Yeah, like it just changes nice. The way like all that work, because there's been so many times where like someone's close to the to the basket, too far away, or they're about to die. Like that little example they showed where like someone literally like died, but they pretty much kept like baton passing the egg, and the fact that you could actually throw it at the basket and not even actually have to make contact with it. I mean, just kind of shows that they're probably gonna make some of the obstacles that much crazier, because now you don't even have to get there. I mean, before the levels were kind of designed so that there's always kind of a clear path or an easy way to get back there, but I don't know, the potential just seemed a lot crazier. Not to mention some of those new salmon bosses also look pretty nutty and funny.
So, and the fish stick.
Well, yeah, the bosses, but
yeah, I know, I just wanted to specifically say the fish stick. Yeah,
pretty good stuff.
Yeah, I think that the only nitpick I have is, like, if you know Salmon Run and you watch it, like, you can pick out the stuff that's new and interesting, the new enemies, the egg toss thing is huge, no doubt. Like, that changes strategies a lot in terms of how you work with your teammates, like you were saying. But if you're just kind of at a glance looking at it, it doesn't feel like, I made a comment that it didn't feel very sequel-y, and I feel like I just wish the environment looked a little different somehow. Like, they have new suits and there's new enemies and like everything's slightly different, but just like the overall like look of the place where this is all happening, where you go to do your salmon run, is exactly the same. And that does seem to be a Splatoon habit, where like the sequels don't really go too far out of the comfort zone. But I just kind of wish Salmon Run, like, I don't know. I understand that it's brown and orange because it's sunset and like that's prime salmon running time, and sometimes there's night mode and stuff. But like, I just wish that maybe change the color of the metal you're standing on, or like have the ocean around you be a different color. Like just do something. Like it just felt so samey, even though the actual mechanics were different. That kind of like, it took me a minute to pick up on what actually changed. Like the egg was obvious, the fish stick was obvious. But, like, some of the others are like, oh, is that enemy new? Because, like, he kind of looks a lot like the other guy because their designs are awfully similar. Like, I just wish they, like, got a little more adventurous visually, like they are with how they're changing up the strategies.
Yeah, I definitely couldn't blame anyone that came into the show midway into that presentation and thought, hey, why are they showing, like, the original Salmon Run?
And while we're talking about things that should change with Salmon Run, I'm just putting in the request officially here. Get rid of the designated times that Salmon Run runs. Like, I don't think Splatoon 3 needs to do what Splatoon 2 does and be like, oh, you have to be online at this one set of hours and you can play Salmon Run. Like, just, it's a mode that Nintendo is acknowledging by making
go home and rest and
he's bits. He is zeros and ones. He does not need a rest. But no, it's just like, it's silly because like they're spending so much time being like, look at Sam. Like, it was one of the longer trailers. In a way, like I think it was like 3 straight minutes or something, right? And it was so much time to be like, look at Salmon Run, look at this new stuff we're doing, and then to have them be like, but also you only play it when we say you play it. Just feels like it outgrew that. Like, I get why it was there initially, is to try and like get attention around because they weren't sure if the mode would work or be successful, so they wanted to like get as many people into it by kind of hyping up the moment. It's successful. It's proven. Just let it be a normal mode, please. That's my one request. So we'll see if they do it. Kevin, where would you rate the music with this Splatoon trailer? Because I know you have a hierarchy of Splatoon trailers.
It had music. Nothing is ever.
That's a rating.
Nothing's ever gonna come close to that Octo expansion reveal trailer music. That song just hits differently, and as far as I'm concerned, if they don't reuse that track, which they never will for obvious reasons, but if they don't use that track, I'm going to give the music in any Splatoon trailer a 0 out of 10. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the one that was like the 90s hip hop inspired, like Biggie Tupac referencing video, right? Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Yeah, it's I am very curious to some extent to see, very curious to some extent. I mean, I'm not very curious, but I am curious to see where the music goes in Splatoon 3. Because they're doing this whole like Splatlands and they're like kind of out like Wild West, so like is that gonna influence the music? You know, is there gonna be other genres? Are they gonna lean more into the hip hop stuff? Because clearly they have a knack for it. It's one of those things that no one really thinks about too much because they're more concerned about the gameplay mechanics and strategies and even the visuals, but like, music's a big part of Splatoon. I'm curious where they take it. But yeah, I will say the trailer music did not do wonders for me either. I don't have the same appreciation as you do for the Octo one, but yeah, it did. So with that, I guess we could close the playbook for the Nintendo Direct announcements. We now have the next drumbeat of releases lined up, and it's a lot. Just on the first party side, we've got Triangle Strategy on March 4th, Mario Kart 8 DLC on March 18th, Kirby on March 25th, Advance Wars on April 8th, Switch Sports on April 29th, Mario Strikers on June 10th, Splatoon sometime this summer, Xenoblade in September. It's like a new game every 6 weeks, and that's just on the first party side. And I think what's crazy to kind of like put a pin in all this is that Switch at this point has whatever they release on Switch at this point, like every single one of those games I just rattled off is easily going to be a $1 million seller. If it's not the strategy we discussed already, it's just the good old Switch bump, capitalizing on throwback nostalgia. Like, you know, Advance Wars Remake isn't doing anything special besides just being what looks like a very solid remake now with voice acting. But, you know, if WarioWare Get Together and Big Brain Academy are both now $1 million sellers with only months on their, you know, in just months since their release, like why wouldn't Advance Wars be? And I think, you know, obviously for what we're playing at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if a game sells well or not, but I think what these sales do is allow for then other games to come. Because what's interesting is on the third-party side, the companies that showed up in this Direct, they seem to understand this idea too of like what can sell on Switch, and that's why we're getting some interesting stuff like, you know, a Klonoa compilation or a Portal Complete Edition or the Assassin's Creed collection or remasters of stuff like Front Mission or Chrono Cross or The Force Unleashed. I think this Direct just really highlighted that as PS5 and Xbox move in one direction with way more enhanced specs, third parties on Switch are making this like nostalgia grove that can really just like play to the system's strengths. And I don't know, maybe there's some games. Were there any other games in particular we haven't talked about you guys want to mention that you're excited for or just happy to see come back? Or was that kind of the highlight? Were there any other highlights?
Really, I mean, I was pleasantly surprised to see Portal. I mean, I played the heck out of it on MacBook, but I don't really plan on playing it again.
Did you play Portal 2?
Happy to see it. Yeah, I also completed Portal 2, the co-op as well. Don't remember how, but I did play the whole thing with
it. Klonoa, baby. I love the Klonoa series. Can't wait.
I don't know if I ever played a Klonoa, but I always liked his design as a character.
Oh, man.
With his flappy ears.
Klonoa 2 on the PlayStation 2 back in the day. Oh, man. I can't wait for that.
That's one of the ones in the compilation, right? It's 1 and 2?
Yeah, they're both on there. I know Klonoa 1 got a remake on the Wii. I don't think that this is...
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that this is that same game, though.
It's not what was remade, or it's not
correct. I don't
the original
think
source of the...
don't think that the Wii port, the Wii remake, is going to be the same one as the one that we get with this collection.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
Like, they're essentially remaking the game twice. So...
Did it use motion control, the Wii one? Maybe that's why.
I don't remember. The reason I say this is because this compilation is called the Phantasy Reverie series, and they specifically call the first game Klonoa Door to Phantomil, which was the title of the original game, but the Wii remake was just Klonoa. So I don't know.
That's odd.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, Bandai Namco, you crazy. I always thought it was clever how Klonoa's little pin on his hat is Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my one thought on Klonoa. But, yeah, I think it I'm kind of curious to check out, like, to kind of echo you, Angel. I'm kind of curious about Portal. I never actually, like, I tried to have it on PC back in college that barely could run it. It was like a laptop from HP or something before I went Mac, and, like, I never finished it. And I never played the sequel. So the fact that both are only going to be $20 on Switch, like, and have online and local co-op like that's enticing.
Yeah, Portal 2's co-op is fantastic. I mean, Portal 2 just as a total package is one of the best games of all time for sure.
The timing, I mean, it makes sense because it's Valve and it's just what they do. But the timing of Valve announcing a Portal compilation coming to Switch within weeks of the Steam Deck coming out, where you can just play Portal on the go on Steam Deck, is kind of funny. And there's no deeper thought here. It's just kind of a funny coincidence. They know how to, hit all the audiences, I guess.
Yep.
But okay, so to close out the coverage, to close out the episode, how would you guys rate this Direct overall? Like, we talked about a bunch of the games, but like, was it a good Direct, you think? An okay Direct? Where is it in the hierarchy for you?
That was pretty good. I would definitely rate it up there. 9.
Yeah, same. I'd probably give it an 8.
Funny thing is that, and this is without it having a Smash Brothers, so
yeah.
I kind of forgot about Smash Brothers, I think like halfway through, when they just kind of kept throwing like, nothing mind-blowing, but just like a bunch of like just really cool stuff. Like even the stuff that I wasn't, like I said, like I was pleasantly surprised to see Portal on there, or like even Klonoa, like just knowing like that I know people like that game was like, oh, that's cool. Like, oh, people will like that. Like even Chrono Cross was like, oh, that's interesting. I know people like that game.
Yeah, I think for me it kind of goes back to the same thing. Like, it's just like the familiarity, like the nostalgia to some degree. Like a new game you've never seen before can be really cool. Like one of the games they showed was Live Alive or Live Alive or whatever it's called, and it's like the idea of it's interesting because it's like your 8 different RPG stories and RPG mechanics, and they're all in this one game, and they kind of intertwine by the end or something like that, and like that was cool. Will I ever play it? Who knows? But it looked neat in the moment, and then my hype pretty much peaked there. But the level of excitement, that I felt when like being like, I don't want to say reunited with old friends, but seeing old familiar faces, like that's hard to top. Like I probably have the same reaction to Klonoa as I did to Live Alive. It's like, oh, that's cool, and not like buy it, but it sticks in my memory more because it has that familiarity to it. And I think that's what like made this direct as good as it was. Because I'd give it probably like an 8, 8.5 as well. And I think it was just because like we didn't see the biggest games or the best games or the AAA games, but there's just a lot of nonstop. Remember this? Hey, this is cool. Hey, this was a thing. Remember that? Do you like this? Do you like that? Like it was all things we've kind of seen before in different capacities. So it's cool to see him revisited in new ways. It's cool to see him revisited at all after decades. Like it was very fan servicey feeling in a way. So that was kind of nice. It just felt like kind of a very long reunion with all these different people. So that was fun. But yeah, with that, I think our episode can finally come to a close. That was a lot. Like, I think we're set on the news front for probably a good while now. Who knows what we're even going to discuss in future episodes. I mean, we'll be back in 2 weeks on, I think, the 27th of February. But what we're going to be talking about, I mean, we have Switch Sports online tests that we've been playing. I know, Kevin, you've been going into Tetris Effect connected a little more. So, yeah, we'll have that. But, like, what else? Who knows? So to find out, I guess everyone will just need to tune in, which you can ensure you do by subscribing to us on your podcast app of choice. We are on everything from Apple Podcasts to Google to Pandora to Amazon Music to Stitcher to TuneIn to we're on YouTube at RamNintendo.com. We're everywhere. And we also are on Twitter at RamNintendo. If you want to follow us there. Individually, I'm JSR7 on Twitter. Angel is Where on Twitter. Kevin is KV Gomi on Twitter. I think that's it. That was a meaty episode.
Spell out Wero?
I did, didn't I?
You did not.
Oh, well, guys and gals, it is spelled WEIRO_O. Now, Kevin, wait, why are you Angel?
Oh no, I'm just thinking of like the timeline where like I didn't point it out until after the fact, and I'm just curious, like
what you okay? Before we wrap up, what do you think would have happened if you didn't point it out until after the fact? Like, would the world have stopped turning? Like, what you think? It's like there's all these scenarios. Like, would volcanoes erupt out of the sea and wipe out California? Like, what are you anticipating happening that you're able to contemplate if I didn't spell it out till after the episode?
You insisting on adding it in just because you've never not done it?
I'm pretty sure in the 274 episodes, there's been at least one time I haven't done it prior to today.
If you didn't, that'd be curious to find out. Yeah, if someone happens to know.
If someone wants to listen to 274 episodes of the RamNintendo podcast, and specifically the last minute to 3 minutes, and I say minute to 3 because we were about to sign off. That was the last minute, but now here we are still going. So, yeah, listen to the last 3 minutes. We will not reward you for your work. So don't expect a paycheck. But if you're curious, we're curious. So with that... this really went off the rails. Kevin, save us. What's the final word?
Put Wordle on Switch.